Hello everyone, welcome. It's Juliet here, and today we are going to learn how to make this earring, which is, I'm calling it the Fairy Bells earring, because it has these cute little dangles that kind of reminded us of bells. And I say us because I asked people what should we call it, and this was one of the suggestions. So we are using these kidney wire earrings, and I've actually brick stitched up the front so that this cannot fall off, because if you just have something hanging right at the bottom, you know, you're very likely as soon as you unhook the earring that it's just gonna fall straight off. Okay, so this way you're not gonna lose your earring at all, and I'll show you how to do that later on in the tutorial, obviously, as well. So so this earring is made using some supplies that came out of the Eureka Crystal Beads Fairy Lake collection that just came out earlier on Monday. And it's such a pretty collection. I love these colors together, the blues, the greens, so pretty. Anyway, if you haven't seen that unboxing, you might want to go and watch that, and you can see what's in that. So I'm just going to quickly run through the materials that I'm using out of the collection. So first of all, I am using one of the 8mm Chatons, and these are such a pretty color. They are called Deep Sea Blue, and they are see if I can get it to turn the right way. They're just such a gorgeous color of blue. Really, really pretty. So we're going to use that for the center of our earring. And then I'm using pretty much all the seed beads that they sent. We've got the 8/0 seed beads and the 15/0s, and these are both the same mix called the Passionflower mix from Miyuki. Okay, I'm also using these Delicas that they included, which are this number here, DB1494. This very pretty pale pink color. And then I am also using the Preciosa or Czech seed beads that were included, and this color is called Pearl Turquoise Jet Terra. So I'm using those for my 11/0 rounds. Okay, so we got 11/0 Delicas, 11/0 rounds, 15/0s, 8/0s. I'm also using the MiniDuos. These are Pearl Coat Steel Blue. So these are not super duos, these are MiniDuos. Okay, I'm using some of the little Czech bellflower beads that we got for my little fringe. And then I'm also using some of the 3mm Rondelles, Chinese Rondelles, and those are the color Teal Metallic. I'm obviously using the ear wires that came. These are in a platinum finish, and you actually got 2 pairs of them in your set. So and for thread, I'm using some OneG in this neutral color, just so that it kind of blends in with the pinks. If you have a pink color or a blush color, that works also. All right, so about 3 feet of thread, and I'm using a size 10 beading needle. All right, let's get started. So to begin, we are going to bezel our create a bezel for our chaton. Okay, so you're going to leave kind of 4-inch tail, and you're going to pick up an 11/0 round and a Delica, and an 11/0 round and a Delica, until you have 12 of each. So 11/0 round, Delica, 11/0, okay, until you have 12 of each of those beads. Okay, so you should have 12 each. So I'm just going to quickly count. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 on your needle. Okay, and then go ahead, push down to your tail And you're going to sew one more time just through the first bead. So just through that 11-0. And pull and hold your ring nice and tight, okay? All right, so we are now going to do peyote stitch using the Delicas. So you're going to pick up one Delica and you're going to skip the Delica and sew into the next 11-0, okay? And you're going to do that the entire way around the ring. And you want them to sit next to each other like this, okay? So you go ahead and pick up another Delica, skip the Delica and sew into the next 11-0 round, okay? So we're only sewing into the 11-0 rounds and our Delicas are just sitting there next to each other like a happy little pair of twins, okay? So you're just going to sew into the next 11-0 round with the Delica. All right, so you're going to continue that until you have the entire ring full. And I'm about to add my last Delica right here. And when I get there, I'm going to sew through the 11-0 and the first Delica on the outer ring that I just added. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is you're going to pick up a 15-0, and here I just used random colors, so I just picked up whatever happened to be there. If you want to pick up specific colors and sort through this, feel free, but I'm just doing random, okay? So I'm coming out from this Delica. I'm going to sew straight into the next Delica that's on the outside, and I'm going to kind of pull this upwards and inwards. And at the end of this round, you can pull in a bit tighter if you want, but for now, just to know that I'm going in a straight line, I just want to make sure that I'm only going in those outside Delicas to keep my beadwork from twisting around all weird, okay? So don't worry about pulling tight until kind of the next round, okay? So you're just going to pop one 15-0 in between each of those outside Delicas all the way around. Okay, so I'm back to the beginning, and this is the Delica that my first 15-0 is coming out of, so I have to sew into that Delica and then up through the 15-0 as well. And when you pull, everything's going to come inwards like this, okay? So your outer row is now your inner row, okay? All right, and you should be coming out from one of the 15-0s on the top. You can see I'm coming out from this 15-0 right here, okay? So we're going to add another row of 15-0s, and we're just sewing from 15-0 into 15-0. Again, I'm just picking up totally random colors here. So I'm just sewing from that 15-0 into the next 15-0. Okay, so go ahead and finish that round. And when you're placing your very last 15-0, you're going to sew into that first 15-0, which is the lower down 15-0. It can be kind of hard to see, and you might think that you're sewing into the right one. Just make sure you're going into the lower down one and not the higher up one, okay? Okay, and when you finish that round, it's a good idea to give it all a good tug inwards, and then you should have a really nice little bezel like this, okay? So it should kind of shape itself, and it should be pretty sturdy as well, feel quite solid, okay? All right, so now we're going to make our way down from this bezel. So you're going to sew through the Delica, the next seed bead, and the next Delica to get down to the bottom. Okay. So my thread is now exiting from the bottom layer, and again I'm just going to tighten that all up, make sure that that stayed nice, which it looks like it did. Okay, so once you're coming out from one of the bottom Delicas, you're going to pick up an 8/0 bead, and I'm using these kind of brownish color, mauve colored ones, these ones. So I am, in my 8/0s, I am picking out colors, and you're going to need 6 of those in total. Okay, so I've picked out my 6 here. You're going to pick up 1 8/0, so into the next Delica. Oops. And then you're going to skip the next 8/0 and you're going to sew into the next Delica. Okay, so you're basically going through 2 Delicas, and there's a little piece of thread right there. Okay, don't worry, you're not going to see that. You're going to pick up another 8/0. You're going to go through that Delica plus the next Delica without going into the 8/0 round. You're skipping that round. Okay, so you're going to add 6 8/0s in total. And when you're adding your last 8/0, you still have to go through the next Delica and the Delica after that as well, and then step up into the 8/0. Okay. Give it all a little pull. And then you're going to pop your Chaton in face downwards. So the front is the side with the 15 O's, okay? And the back is the side with the 8 O's on it, okay? And you're going to pick up 1 of your 11/0 rounds. You're going to sew straight into the next 8/0. And you're going to add 6 of them doing that. So that was 1, 2, you should have 6 in total once you finish. So you're just picking up 1 11/0 and sewing straight into the next 8/0 all the way around. And when you get back to the first one, just check that you've got your Chaton in straight, and then give it all a nice pull inwards to seal that in. Okay, and I highly recommend that you sew around all of those beads again in order to tighten up the whole thing so it doesn't come loose, okay? So sew around all the beads again. And once you've done that, you can go ahead and we're going to do a little bit of reinforcing. So you're going to come out from the 8/0, you're going to sew down into the Delica, the 11/0 that's down below, okay, and then up into the Delica, and then up into the 8/0, and you're going to do that all the way around, and that's going to help pull these 11/0s kind of inwards, okay? So go ahead, you're just going Delica, 11, and then Delica, 8/0. go ahead and reinforce all the way around. Okay, and once you've finished reinforcing that, you're going to exit from one of your 11 O's on the side, just below where you came down from the 8O through the Delica. So exit from one of those, and then we're going to pick up a seed bead, a MiniDuo, and a seed bead. Okay, so seed bead, MiniDuo, seed bead. You're going to sew straight into the very next 11O that's there. So we're not sewing into the Delicas, we're only sewing into the 11Os, okay? So we're going to do this so that we have 6 MiniDuos on the bottom row, okay? So just go ahead and pick up another set of seed bead, MiniDuo seed bead, and sew right into the very next seed bead, okay? So go ahead, add 4 more, and then I'll come back. Okay, so once you've got your 6 MiniDuos on, and do be sure to check that the holes are okay before you put them on as well. When you get here, we're going to continue kind of doing the same thing, except instead of picking up seed bead MiniDuo seed bead, we're going to just pick up seed bead 15O and a seed bead. And here I'm just again picking up random color of 15Os, okay? So you're just going to pick up 11O, 15O, 11O, and go straight into the next 11O that's on the ring there, and just repeat until you get all the way over here. Okay, and when you get to where you're adding your last set and you're going into that last seed bead before your MiniDuo area, so it should kind of look like this, okay? You're going to sew up through the first bead right before the MiniDuo that you added, and you're going to pick up 3 11Os. You're going to sew into the upper hole on the first MiniDuo there, okay? So like this. Then you're going to pick up 1 seed bead, 2 seed beads. So 2 seed beads. You're going to sew down into your flower. So you want to enter from the top section, the skinny section, okay? And then here I picked out the color of 8O that I wanted because I wanted to bring in a little bit, I wanted to make sure I had a bit of kind of blue visual, and that was the most blue bead in our mix, so I kind of picked these ones out to put, just to kind of help tie in with the blue of our Chaton, okay? So I picked that up. I mean, if you want to use a different color, feel free, but because I'm using the blue Chaton, I just feel like it needs a little bit more blue down here. And also these beads, because they have a purple kind of halo to them, I guess, I find that this color actually really helps accent that. Okay, so once you come out, once you've picked up your 8O, you're going to come back up through that flower and the very first of those 2 seed beads that we added. So we added 2. So we're going up the flower and the first seed bead, okay? And then you're going to pick up 1 more seed bead and you're going to sew through the next over MiniDuo, okay? And then what you're going to want to do here, see how I have, it's a bit loose, you're going to want to pull on your 8O and then tighten that up. Now you don't want it too tight, you do want to have a little bit of swing to it, you know, but you definitely don't want to kind of see any spare thread in there, okay? So you should have something that looks a bit like this, okay? And you're basically going to repeat that for the next 5 gaps, next 4 gaps. So you're going to have 5 flowers in total. So you're going to pick up 2 seed beads, your flower, your 8-0. I like to push it down. You're going to go back up through the flower and the first seed bead, okay? And pick up a seed bead, go into the next mini duo, and then you can adjust your tension by just pulling down on that 8-0, okay? All right, I'm gonna finish my fringe, and then when I get over here, I will come back. Okay, so I've just added my last fringe. I'm coming out that last mini duo. I'm going to pick up 3 seed beads, and I'm going to sew into the seed bead that's directly below and attached to that mini duo, okay? All right, so now we're going to kind of do a little reinforcing. So we're going to go up into our first seed bead and 15-0 and down into the next seed bead, and then we're going to go straight up into the next seed bead and 15-0. So if your seed beads are kind of overlapping at all, this is going to straighten them out, this bit right here, okay? So you're just going straight up, straight down. See here, it's all kind of out of whack on mine, but if I go straight up into that one, it's going to help to attach it on. And then when I get to the third 15-0 on this side, okay, see how those are nicely lined up now? Coming out this one here, I'm going to pick up 3 15-0s, and this is going to help us to attach on our ear wire. So pick up 3 15-0s and go straight into the next 15-0 over, okay? So it should be like a little bridge right across the top right there. See? Okay. And then we're going to continue with our reinforcing. So you're going to go down through the next seed bead, up through the next seed bead, through the 15-0, down through the next seed bead, up through the next seed bead, through the 15-0, down through the next seed bead, and then here you're going to go up through the next seed bead, which is the bottom one here. So you have these 3 above it, okay? So it's like, looks like the 4th seed bead, okay? So that's the one you're going into. And then you're going to sew into the bottom hole of the mini duo, okay? So you're coming out from the bottom hole. We're going to pick up 2 of our Delica beads, and we're going to go straight into the next upper hole of the next mini duo like this. Okay, and we're going to add a little line of Delicas in this hole right here, okay? So you're going to pick up 2 more and go straight into the next mini duo. And just continue that for the next 3 gaps. Okay, and once you have exited from the last mini duo here, you're going to go down the, so there should be 3 seed beads above, you're going down into that first one there, okay? And then we're going to just repeat that path that we just took a second ago, but you can skip the 15-0s if you want and just go into the 11-0s until we get up to the top section. And when I get up to the top where this join is, I'm going to skip this 15 0 and I'm going to go straight down into the next 11 0. And then you're going to go straight up into the next 11 0, which is the one that's kind of under the bridge here, okay? And you want your needle to come out in front of the bridge. Okay. Okay, so I'm coming out of the second seed bead underneath my little bridge right here. I'm going to grab my earring wire and you're going to hook that under the bridge like this, so it's hanging off the earring, okay? And then close your earring wire back up just so that it doesn't fall off right now while we're working on it, okay? You're going to pick up, sorry, my thread's a little tangled. You're going to pick up 3 seed beads, 3 15-ohs. Okay, and again, I'm just doing random. And then you're going to pick up one of your little Chinese rondelles, okay? And then we're going to begin brick stitching up the front of our earring here. So go ahead, just sew underneath the earring and kind of hold the thread kind of up against the earring like this. And then you're going to go back down into the Chinese crystal, okay, like this, and then kind of pull it. So what you want is you want the thread to be attached onto the ear wire. See the little bit of thread right behind the Chinese crystal that's around the ear wire? That's what you want. And then you're going to pick up another seed bead, another 15-0 and another Chinese rondelle, okay? You can do the same thing. You're going to just sew like underneath the ear wire. And then you're going to sew back down into the Chinese crystal. And you're going to pull it so that it sits next to its friend, okay? And we're going to add 5 crystals like that. Well, I did 5. You can actually do more if you want. I think 5 is enough for me, but you know, it's a matter of taste how far up the ear wire you want to go, okay? So I'm just going to add 5 here, and I'll be back in a second. So yeah, just put on the next 2 beads and then sew back down through the Chinese crystal. And make sure that you are sewing around your ear wire so that the little bits of thread are attaching onto the ear wire, okay? And you should have a little 15-0 that sits in between each of those beads like this, and it just kind of helps to cover up some of the thread, okay? And give a little bit of added sparkle up there. All right, I'm gonna add 2 more and then I'll come back. Okay, so I was just measuring to make sure that they were approximately in the same place. If you need to at this point, you can kind of scoot your line up a little bit just to, you know, if one of them's significantly lower than the other, you can move the whole row if you need to, pull it up a tiny bit, okay? And then we're going to sew all the way back down again, doing the exact same thing. So you're going to go back into the 15-0, back into the bead below. You're going to have to So around that earring wire, so just make sure that, you know, if your thread's coming out on the left of it, you're going back in on the right of it, and then down through the next 15-0. And you're going to make your way down until we get to the 3 15-0s right here, and then I'll show you what to do, okay? Okay, so I've exited from my bottom rondelle here, and here are my 3 15-0s. I'm going to sew down the first 2. So I'm not going into that third one there, okay? Just the first 2, and then you're going to pick up one more 15-0. And remember, we exited out of that right side here, so I'm going to, sorry, the left side. So I'm going to enter into the other center 11-0 that's on the right hand side right here, okay? And give that a pull. So now we should have, so that it looks like they kind of go up and then up the front like that, okay? So that's how we're going to, and now you'll notice, you know, it's not going to fall off. It can't really fall off, so which is very useful. Okay, so now remember we went back and reinforced with skipping the 15-0s on this side, so we're going to just do that down to here, and then we can reinforce, tie off our threads up in here, okay? So we just have to get that bit even with the other bit, and then we're good. So just go up the next seed bead on the left, continue moving around the circle as you've been doing. So we're going up, we're skipping the 15-0, and then we're going down. And then you're just going up the next one, skip the 15-0, go down, up, down, and then you can tie off your thread, okay? So I'm going to finish that off, and then I'll be back. One more thing, if your beads here are a little crooked, you can go up, down, just through these to help straighten them out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and then tie off my thread. So just a quick little tip for that, okay? Okay, so I tied in my thread. I actually just went around the back and met up with my tail, tied the 2 ends together, and then sewed away from my knot and cut the thread off. So that's how I finished mine off. And I think these came out really nice. These colors are so pretty. And this is actually colors that I wear a lot because these are kind of my colors. So, but yeah, I think they're really fun. And I really like this little bit up here, the little brick stitch area on the earring. I think it just gives it kind of lifts it a little bit, so it's not just like I've stuck something on the earring and it's gonna fall off, you know. It kind of nice to have it be held on. So anyway, I hope you try these. These are really fun to make. They're actually quite quick. I know I've made it seem like they aren't maybe, but they actually are quite quick, and they're very nice. And even if you you know, you don't want to use this type of ear wire, you just want to make the little base, it's a really cute and fun little, it has a nice little movement to it, and not too big by any means. They're, you know, they're not, this area is not very big at all. So you know, hopefully you guys enjoy it, and I will put a link if you're interested in getting the Fairy Lake collection. It is such a nice collection. I really love it. I will be making another project using some of the beads out of this collection, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you guys very soon. Take care. Bye.